After I stopped being a house husband, she had regrets. The first thing my wife did after getting her memory back was return to her family's empire and find the one that got away. She told me I was lucky to have married her, that I'd hit the jackpot and should know my place. That a good man doesn't ask questions about his wife's private life. Too bad I'm not a good man. And being the kept husband of a New York heiress held zero interest for me. The 10th time, or was it the 11th, she brought her old flame back to our penthouse. I serve her with divorce papers. We should get a divorce. I said the words to Isabella as she sank into the plush white sofa, just back from a late-night business dinner. She lifted her head, her eyes glassy. What did you say? She was drunk. She hadn't heard me. Before I could repeat myself, our housekeeper, Maria, walked in carrying a large box of clothes. Ms. Vance, these are the out-of-season clothes you asked me to sort. What should I do with them? Isabella didn't even glance at the box. Toss them. I looked at the clothes piled inside. Most of them she'd only worn a few times. I remember a time when she wore a simple cotton t-shirt for 3 years, refusing to buy a new one. Now, she'd toss a $1,000 blouse without a second thought. She seemed exhausted. After drinking a glass of water, she went upstairs to bed. I looked down at the divorce papers in my hand, a knot tightening in my stomach. I'd spent the afternoon with a lawyer who had drafted the agreement according to my wishes. He'd reminded me about the state's mandatory 30-day cooling-off period. Only then could the divorce be finalized. Isabella Vance was the sole heir to the Vance Corporation, a global conglomerate. Her wealth was staggering, but I had no interest in it. I never wanted a cent of her money, so there would be no messy disputes over assets. I was a chef. That's who I was. 5 years ago, on my way home from shift, I found Isabella on a rain-slicked side street, injured and disoriented. I took her to the hospital. When she woke up, she couldn't remember a thing. Total amnesia. With nowhere else to go, I took her home to my tiny East Village apartment. Living together, we fell in love. It wasn't long before we were at City Hall, signing a marriage license. Then, a year ago, a fall. A blow to the head. And just like that, her memories came flooding back. She remembered she was Isabella Vance, daughter of one of the most powerful families in New York. I went with her back to her world. Her parents were overjoyed to have her back, but their smiles vanished when they looked at me. I was not the son-in-law they had envisioned. They made it clear they didn't approve, that I was beneath her. I was just a line cook with no family connections, no prestigious career. But Isabella insisted. She told them she wouldn't have anyone else, that if they forced me out, she would leave with me. Her parents, helpless, finally gave in. But giving in didn't mean acceptance. They never missed an opportunity to show me their disdain, their cold glances making it clear I didn't belong. I loved cooking. It was my passion, my profession. But the Vances declared that their son-in-law couldn't be a cook. They found my job embarrassing. To keep the peace, I quit. Even that wasn't enough. They still despised me. The next morning, I was up early making breakfast, just like always. When I brought the plates out, a man was sitting at the dining table. He was handsome in a polished, old-money way, with an air of refined arrogance. Julian Croft, a trust fund kid, just like Isabella. He glanced at me, a smirk playing on his lips. He picked up a mini quiche, popped it in his mouth, and turned to Isabella. Bella, darling, your private chef is quite good. Much better than the one at my family's estate. I said nothing, just placed a plate of pancakes on the table. Isabella looked from him to me. Julian, why don't you wait for me in the living room? He shrugged and sauntered out. She turned to me, her expression placating. He didn't know you made breakfast. That's why he said that. Right, I said. It was obvious Julian had said it on purpose. He was in love with Isabella and would be thrilled if we divorced. Isabella sighed. He's here to take me to meet a client. It's nothing, Ethan. Don't overthink it. I won't. As I said it, my eyes fell on her wrist. The watch she was wearing was a sleek, silver timepiece. It was identical to the one on Julian's wrist. A matching pair. I knew he'd given it to her for her birthday last month. The simple silver bracelet I had saved for months to buy her was tossed in a drawer, never worn. I looked at her, my voice low. I need to talk to you. We should. Before I could get the word divorce out, Isabella cut me off. I'm swamped. Whatever it is, can it wait until tonight? She stood up and walked toward the living room, joining Julian. Their easy laughter filled the air as they headed for the door. When she was with me, she was mostly silent. I was always the one trying to bridge the ever-widening gap between us, searching for topics we could share. Once, after coming home from the market, I mentioned how much grocery prices had gone up. She'd waved a dismissive hand. Don't bother me with those trivial details. If you want something, just buy it. We don't need to worry about the cost. I just stood there, stunned. It was then I truly understood the problem. To her, the only things that had meaning were $100 million projects. The price of milk was just noise. At noon, I packed a lunch and brought it to her office at the Vance Corporation headquarters, a habit from the early days after her return. Her assistant informed me she was still in a meeting. I went into her spacious corner office to wait, placing the insulated container on her massive desk. I waited for nearly an hour before she emerged, looking stressed. She sat down, her eyes already on her computer monitor. "What are you doing here?" I gestured to the container. "It's lunchtime. I brought you something to eat." She pushed it aside without looking at it. "Don't bring lunch to the office anymore. My assistant can order me something." I felt a cold sting. She used to tell me that the happiest part of her day was eating the food I made. When she first took over the company, she'd beg me to bring her lunch every day, complaining that takeout was unhealthy. Now, her eyes couldn't hide her annoyance. I didn't even know when she had changed. I shook my head with a bitter smile. It didn't matter anymore. We were getting a divorce anyway. Got it. As I turned to leave, she stopped me. "And you don't need to cook at home anymore either. Just let the household staff handle it." I looked at her, then nodded slowly. "Okay." I walked out her office. As I passed the rows of cubicles, I overheard two employees whispering, "Mr. Croft is so good to Ms. Vance. He even dropped her off this morning. They look like a power couple, don't they? A perfect match." Someone spotted me and coughed loudly, silencing the conversation. The air grew still. They looked at me with pity and fear, as if I might explode. "Mr. Hayes, we were just talking nonsense. Please don't take it to heart." I wasn't angry. I just managed a tight smile. They weren't wrong. Isabella and Julian were from the same world. I was just a tourist. After leaving the Vance Corporation Tower, I took the subway to a run-down building in the East Village. The apartment my parents had left me. It was barely 500 square feet. I hadn't been back in a long time. A thick layer of dust covered everything. Looking at the familiar, worn furniture, memories washed over me. Before Isabella's memory returned, this was our home. We were broke. Some nights, we'd share a single box of mac and cheese for dinner. But she never complained. She'd smile and tell me it was the best thing she'd ever tasted, her words a balm to my bruised ego. At night, we'd lie tangled together on a small mattress that barely fit the two of us. Turning over meant falling onto the floor. I'd hold her tight, and in those moments, I felt like the richest man in the world. Then her memory came back, and our world was turned upside down. When she first returned to her family, she tried to include me. She dragged me to black-tie galas and charity events. But I couldn't fit in. I felt awkward and tense, a fraud in a rented tuxedo, while she navigated the crowds with effortless grace. I hated the superficial schmoozing, and I had no interest in putting on a suit and sitting in a corporate office at Vance Corp. I suggested I stay home, manage the household, and take care of her. She agreed. And just like that, I became a house husband. She conquered the business world, and I handled domestic affairs. For a while, the arrangement worked. I told myself that as long as I was with the woman I loved, giving up my dreams was a small price to pay. That illusion shattered the day I overheard her talking to her parents. They were calling me a gold digger, a leech, and she didn't say a word to defend me. All my work, all my care, in her eyes, it was meaningless. She was tired of me. 3 more than 2 weeks passed in a quiet, tense truce. One evening, Isabella came home to find me packing boxes. "What are you doing?" My hands stilled. "Just clearing out some old clutter." She glanced at the contents of the box before her attention drifted back to her phone. If she'd looked closer, she would have seen it wasn't clutter I was packing. It was our past. I carried the box downstairs to the building's recycling bins. It was full of things we'd brought from the old apartment. I crouched down and picked up a small, pink stuffed bear I'd won for her at a street fair. She used to love it, insisting on sleeping with it every night. Next, I pulled out a simple silver necklace. Her first birthday gift for me. It cost $600, a fortune I'd saved for months to afford. She'd been as happy as a child, wearing it constantly. After she moved back into her world, she took it off. It was replaced by diamonds. There were so many other things, each one a memory. Now they were all meaningless. After dumping the box, I went back upstairs. Isabella was working in her home office. I showered and went to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night and turned to look at the woman sleeping beside me. I once loved her more than life itself. I would have given her anything, done anything for her. I swore that only death could ever make us part. I never imagined we'd end up here. But she didn't love me anymore. She loved someone else. It was time for me to get out of her way. I let out a long breath. 12 days left. 12 days until the cooling-off period was over and we could file the papers. My heart felt strangely calm, a quiet, empty space where love used to be. Isabella was busy, rarely home, which made it easier for me to pack my things. She never asked what I was doing. She didn't care. A few days later, I was napping when my phone rang. I'd passed the interview. The restaurant wanted me to start. I had applied for a chef position at a high-end hotel a couple of weeks ago. I asked if I could have a week. The cooling-off period would be over by then. They said it was fine. I was ecstatic. I truly loved being a chef. I loved the energy of the kitchen, the joy of creating something that brought people happiness. It gave me a sense of purpose. A week later, I called Isabella. "Can you be home for dinner tonight?" On time. She was always out late. We lived under the same roof, but were strangers. Her voice was impatient. "Is something wrong?" "No, I just thought. It's been a while since we ate together." She was silent for a moment. "Fine. I'll be home early." "Great," I said, a small smile touching my lips. I hung up and went to the kitchen, pulling ingredients from the fridge. She walked in just as I was finishing the last dish. She looked at me, annoyed. "Didn't I tell you not to cook anymore?" I just smiled faintly. "This is the last time." She paused. Then her expression smoothed over. She assumed I was finally giving up my hobby for good. In a way, she was right. Isabella picked up her fork, but just as she was about to eat, her phone buzzed. She answered it, her brow furrowing as she listened. "Julian? Okay, I'm on my way." She hung up and looked at me. "Something urgent came up. I have to go." "You eat." My grip tightened on my own fork. "Can't you stay? Just for dinner?" "No," she said, without a flicker of hesitation. "Julian's waiting. I can eat when I get back." I watched her hurry away, a bitter laugh caught in my throat. I had spent 3 hours on this meal, and she hadn't taken a single bite. I wouldn't be waiting for her to come back. This was the last time. My plan had been to talk to her about the divorce over dinner, to end things civilly. But she couldn't even give me that. I ate alone, methodically. Then I went upstairs, took off my wedding ring, and placed it on the bed next to the signed divorce agreement. I grabbed my packed suitcase and walked out of the penthouse for the last time. For as I was leaving, Maria, the housekeeper, asked where I was going. "I'm leaving," I said calmly. "And I'm not coming back." She stared, speechless. I didn't look back. I took a cab back to my old apartment in the East Village. Later that night, Isabella called. She must have found the papers. "Ethan, when did I ever say I wanted a divorce?" My voice was even. "I'm the one who wants it." "Why?" she asked, genuinely shocked. I laughed, a humorless sound. "I thought you would have figured that out by now." "Is this because I didn't stay for dinner tonight?" she asked, her tone laced with disbelief. "Is that what you think?" "I can't think of any other reason. I was too tired to argue. If that's what you want to believe, fine. But it doesn't change anything. I want a divorce." Just then, I heard Julian's voice in the background. "Bella, which shirt should I wear?" A self-deprecating smile twisted my lips. I hung up the phone. A few minutes later, a text from her came through. It was raining. Julian got soaked and just came in to borrow some dry clothes. I didn't reply. The next day, I started my new job at the hotel. The kitchen was state-of-the-art, the team was professional, and I fit in immediately. 2 days later, Isabella showed up at my old apartment. When I opened the door and saw her standing there, for a split second, it felt like old times. But the woman in front of me was clad in designer clothes and expensive jewelry, a world away from the girl in cheap jeans who had lived here with me. "My mother is sick," she said, her voice strained. "She wants you to make her some of your chicken noodle soup." "You have a staff of cooks," I said, my hand on the door. "Have one of them make it." Her brow furrowed. "It's not the same. I seem to recall your mother saying my cooking was mediocre." I doubt she suddenly developed a craving for it. She didn't mean it. "She actually loves your food." "Isabella, it doesn't matter anymore. This is my life now. Please don't come here again." She'd never heard me use that tone with her before. Her eyes widened in surprise, then filled with a hurt expression. I hadn't seen her look that vulnerable in years. She was always the tough, decisive CEO now. But even that didn't soften me. You should go. As I tried to close the door, she put her hand out to stop it. Did you really throw away all our things? All our memories? I didn't deny it. They were just things. They had no value. How could you? She said, her voice rising. Those were our memories, Ethan. Even if you're angry with me, you can't just erase everything. She took a breath. Is this about Julian? Did you misunderstand something? There was no misunderstanding. Let me explain, she said urgently. It's not what you think. That night, he really did just come over to change his clothes. Nothing happened. Compared to her agitation, I was perfectly calm. Isabella, you're in love with him. Can you at least stop lying to yourself? I asked you, why don't you ever wear the bracelet I gave you? But you were the watch he gave you every single day. She lifted her wrist. This watch just goes better with my outfits. It doesn't mean anything else. A cold laugh escaped me. Really? You have a walk-in closet full of watches that look just like that one. Why do you only wear the one from him? She was speechless. I had known her for years. I still knew her, even after everything. I believe Isabella loved me once. But that love had faded, eroded by time and money, and transferred to Julian Croft. You and Julian are the same, Isabella. You belong together. We were like two parallel lines that never should have crossed. It was your amnesia, a freak accident, that brought us together. Now, I continued, it's time to correct that mistake. We both need to go back to our own lives. Ethan, I cut her off. When are you free? We need to go finalize the paperwork. She shook her head. I'm not agreeing to a divorce. My brow furrowed. Why not? I don't want to divorce you. I won't. And all that stuff you said, it doesn't mean anything. You're just overthinking things. The conversation ended there, with us at a stalemate. To avoid her, I moved into the employee dorms provided by the hotel. The work was demanding, filling my days and exhausting my nights. I didn't have time to think about Isabella. I get back to my room and collapse into bed. The hotel management was thrilled with my work, telling me the customer feedback was outstanding. I knew this was where I belonged. In a kitchen, surrounded by the controlled chaos and the smell of creation. Seeing a customer's face light up after tasting my food, that gave me a sense of accomplishment I hadn't felt in years. One night, after my shift, I came back to my room to see my phone buzzing on the table. It was a call from a Vance's housekeeper. Mr. Hayes, Ms. Vance has a fever. Do you remember that ginger tea you used to make for her? She's burning up. Please, can you come back? Whenever Isabella had gotten sick in the past, I'd make her a specific ginger lemon tea that always seemed to break her fever. If she has a fever, she needs a doctor, I said flatly. But she's asking for your tea, the housekeeper pleaded. She says it's the only thing that helps. Hearing she was sick didn't stir anything in me. She had a team of people to look after her. She didn't need me. You can make it for her just as well as I can. A little while later, the housekeeper called back. She'd made the tea, but Isabella refused to drink it. She only wanted mine. I'm busy, I said, and hung up. The phone rang again. I ignored it. I had nothing more to say. A few days later, in the middle of the lunch rush, the restaurant manager came into the kitchen. Ethan, there's a guest who'd like to meet you. It wasn't unusual. Sometimes a diner would be so impressed they'd want to offer a personal compliment. Sure, I said, wiping my hands on my apron and following him out to a private dining room. When I saw the person sitting at the table, my smile froze. I knew we lived in the same city, that a chance encounter was inevitable. I just never imagined it would be like this. Isabella looked up at me. Ethan, I didn't say a word. I turned and walked out. She followed me, grabbing my arm to stop me in the hallway. Ethan, don't be like this. I knew she still thought this was all some kind of act, a dramatic gesture to get her attention. I'm not being like this. This is real. I've thought about this for a long time. I've been trying to find the right time to talk to you ever since I got the papers, but you're always so busy. I'm serious. Let's just schedule a time and get this over with. She still looked at me with disbelief. Ethan, you just said it yourself. I've been busy. Can we please stop this drama and just go home? I didn't bother explaining further. I didn't care about her anymore, so what she thought was irrelevant. I'm not going back with you. I'm happy with my life now. She sighed, a frustrated sound. Ethan, do you have to be so difficult? I looked her straight in the eye. I genuinely want to end this. To be done with this marriage. These past few years living in your world, I felt suffocated. I was never free. Isabella flinched, as if I'd struck her. She saw it on my face then, the finality, the coldness, the complete absence of the love she had taken for granted. "What did you say?" she whispered. I met her gaze without wavering. "I don't love you anymore, Isabella. Let's get a divorce." But she didn't give up. After discovering where I worked, she started coming to the restaurant every single day. She would sit at the same table and order the same few dishes, all of her old favorites. She didn't ask to see me again. Instead, she sent me a text. "If you don't come home with me, I'll be here every day." I didn't respond. After careful consideration, I submitted my resignation. The hotel tried hard to convince me to stay, but my mind was made up. I was leaving. When Isabella found out I had quit, she called me. "Did you quit because of me? I don't want you interfering with my work, and I don't want any more drama." There was a long pause on her end. "Ethan, are you absolutely sure you want to go through with this divorce?" "Yes," I said, my voice firm. After a few seconds, she spoke again. "I want to talk one last time. If after we talk you still want to go through with it, then we'll go get the papers signed." Before I could answer, she added, "I'll be waiting for you at home." I hesitated, but eventually I went. When I walked into the penthouse, it was quiet. No staff in sight. Isabella came out of the kitchen carrying a platter of food. She placed it on the dining table and smiled at me. "Come on, let's eat." I looked at the dishes on the table. She came over to me. "I had our chef teach me. You're the professional. Come see how I did." I sat down and picked up a fork. I tried a piece of the steak, then some of the roasted vegetables. Isabella watched me, her eyes full of nervous anticipation. "Well, is it any good?" "No," I said honestly. "It's not. The steak is overcooked, and the vegetables are mushy." The light in her eyes dimmed. She was clearly disappointed by my blunt critique, having expected at least a little praise for the effort. I didn't offer any comfort. Being with her like this, I realized the person I missed most was the one she'd been during her amnesia. That innocent, kind, and gentle woman. The woman who would get excited for hours over saving $2 at the farmer's market. The woman who would stay up all night, her brow furrowed with worry, when I had fever. That time was a beautiful, fleeting happiness I had stolen. Throughout the meal, Isabella tried to make small talk. It was almost comical. Our roles had completely reversed. But it didn't change the fact that we were walking on two different paths. After dinner, she was the one who suggested we go finalize the divorce. I was surprised for a moment, then I realized she must have finally accepted it. She handed me a new divorce agreement. I made some changes to the terms. "Take a look. If it's okay, you can sign." I opened the folder. She was giving me one of the luxury condos her family owned, plus a car. "I don't want your property or your car. Let's stick to the original agreement." Isabella's lips tightened. She looked like she wanted to argue, but when she met my gaze, the words died in her throat. All she said was, "Okay." 7, we went to the county clerk's office. Seeing the happy couples waiting to get their marriage licenses, I thought back to our own wedding day. We had nothing then but each other, and a pure, simple love we thought could conquer anything. But you can't turn back time. When the clerk handed me the finalized divorce decree, a wave of relief washed over me. From this day forward, I was completely free to live the life I wanted. No more walking on eggshells, no more trying to please her and her family. Isabella looked at me, her eyes intense. "Ethan, I agreed to this divorce not because I'm giving up on you, but because I want a fresh start with you." I had to laugh. A fresh start was impossible. All I wanted now was to go somewhere she wasn't. The farther, the better. She stared at me, her gaze unwavering. "As long as you're alive, as long as you're on this planet, I have the right to pursue you." I didn't take her words seriously. I had no interest in being pursued by her. But I had underestimated Isabella's tenacity. She started sending a barrage of expensive gifts to my apartment. Watches, designer clothes, gadgets. I didn't care if I received them or not. She had them delivered anyway. I never kept them. I gave them away to neighbors or friends. Her texts and calls went unanswered. Even her parents called me, pleading with me to come back and reconcile with their daughter. I knew why. When they saw that I divorced her without taking a penny, they finally understood I wasn't after their money. They realized they had misjudged me and now wanted to make amends. I told them directly that a reconciliation was impossible and asked them not to call me again. To my surprise, Julian Croft asked to meet me. We met at a coffee shop. He was already there when I arrived, looking haggard. The moment he saw me, he started in, "Ethan, why the hell did you have to divorce her? Don't you know how much she loves you? She's been a wreck since you left, searching everywhere for you while trying to run a multi-billion-dollar company. She's made herself sick." He leaned forward, his voice rising. "Wasn't she good enough to you? Her parents didn't like you. People called you a gold digger, and she still defended you at every turn. Do you even have a heart?" I let him finish, then said coolly, "Are you done? Julian, I know you're in love with her, and I know she has feelings for you. My leaving should have been the perfect opportunity for you too." His angry expression faltered, replaced by a bitter smile. "I thought so too. I thought she liked me. After you left, I officially told her how I felt. She turned me down flat. She loves you, Ethan. She doesn't want to be divorced from you. You should go back to her. All I want is for her to be happy, not miserable like she is now." I looked at him. "We're already divorced." Julian stared at me, shocked. "When did that happen?" "It doesn't matter." I stood up. "It's over between us, and you shouldn't come looking for me again. This is the last time we'll be seeing each other." With that, I walked out. I didn't rush to find a new job. Instead, I spent my days exploring the city's vibrant food scene, from street carts to hidden gems. I researched different cuisines, bought exotic ingredients, and spent hours in my small kitchen experimenting and learning. A great chef never stops evolving. With my new free time, I started hanging out with old friends again. When one of them heard about the divorce, he joked, "Man, with all her family's money, you should have at least gotten a hefty settlement." And I just smiled and shook my head. If I cared about her money, I never would have left. I loved her for who she was, the person she'd been when we first met. Her fortune had nothing to do with it. Besides, I believed in my own abilities. I knew I could build a successful career with my own two hands. I didn't need to rely on anyone. "Fair enough," my friend said. Then his eyes lit up. "Hey, you know the American Culinary Masters competition is next month? The grand prize is like 80 grand. You should enter." My interest was instantly piqued. I looked up the entry requirements and application process that night. After weeks of intense preparation, I entered the competition, and I won. I took the $80,000 prize, and instead of saving it, I invested it all into opening a small restaurant of my own. It was a tiny place in Greenwich Village. Business was slow at first, but I wasn't discouraged. I had faith in my cooking. Slowly, word started to spread. Customers loved the food and brought their friends. Day by day, business got better. It was a relief to see all my hard work finally paying off. One evening, a woman came in alone and ordered 12 different dishes. Since she was by herself, I walked over to her table. "Ma'am, I saw you ordered 12 dishes. Are you sure you can finish?" I trailed off as she turned her face to look at me. It was Isabella. I hadn't seen her in 6 months. She was much thinner, her face pale and drawn. She offered a weak smile. "I haven't had your cooking in a long time. I missed it, so I ordered a lot." When I didn't respond, she added quickly, "Don't worry, I won't waste any of it. I'll take home whatever I can't finish." I pressed my lips together, gave a curt nod, and returned to the kitchen. I sent out all 12 dishes. Isabella sat there and ate with a desperate hunger. Of course, she couldn't finish it all, and she had the rest packed to go. After paying, she didn't leave right away. She looked up at me. "A friend of mine ate here and said the food reminded her of your cooking. I came to see, and I couldn't believe it was really you." I remembered all the times her friends had come over to the penthouse, and I'd cooked massive feasts for them. "How have you been, Ethan?" "I've been good," I nodded. With the passage of time, my perspective had shifted. I could finally face her without the old anger and hurt. "That's good," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I didn't talk to her for long. The restaurant was busy. After that, Isabella started coming often. If she didn't come herself, she'd send her assistant to pick up a large takeout order. One day, the assistant told me that Isabella had developed an eating disorder. She said my cooking was the only thing she could eat without forcing herself. I listened and just gave a small, non-committal smile. An eating disorder isn't a death sentence. She'll get better. The next day was Thanksgiving. I gave my staff the day off. I slept in, cleaned my apartment, and then went to the market. When I got back with my groceries, I saw her standing outside my building. She was obviously waiting for me. "You're back. My face remained impassive. I tried to walk past her, but she grabbed my arm. Ethan, I miss you so much. I didn't understand her obsession. She hadn't loved me this much when we were married. Isabella, we can't go back. You need to go be the CEO of your company. That's the life you chose. Stop harassing me. Tears welled in her eyes. But I love you, Ethan. I can't forget you. In all the time I'd known her, I'd rarely seen her cry. She was always so strong. People have to learn to move on. We're divorced. I tried to pull my arm away, but she clung to me, wrapping her arms around my arm and holding on tight. I laughed coldly. Isabella, can you swear to me that you never had feelings for Julian Croft? She froze. That brief hesitation was all the answer I needed. To be honest, I wasn't surprised at all. I admit there was a time I admired him, she explained, her voice trembling. The company was in trouble, and he helped me solve a huge problem. But that doesn't mean anything. The person I love is you. I'll always remember the time we lived in the old apartment. That's in the past, Isabella. Talking about it is pointless. We need to look forward, not back. No, that's not right, she cried, her voice cracking. It's not in the past for me. I want to be with you. I had no more patience for it. I didn't want to be dragged into this drama any longer. I yanked my arm free, sending her stumbling back. I turned and walked toward my building. Isabella tried to follow, but she tripped and fell to the pavement. Ethan, my ankle. I twisted my ankle. Help me up. I glanced back at her. Call your driver. Have him take you to the hospital. She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. Can't you take me? No, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. Her face crumpled, and her eyes turned red. Ethan, you were never like this before. I ignored her, reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and called her driver, giving him the address. After hanging up, I tossed the phone into her lap. He's on his way. You can wait here. As I started to walk away, she completely broke down. Ethan, don't go. I forbid you to leave, she screamed. Don't leave me here by myself. I am scared. Please don't go. Your driver will be here soon. I said over my shoulder and kept walking without looking back. Behind me, I could hear her unrestrained sobs. She finally felt it then, my absolute resolve. She finally understood that she had lost me for good. The old Ethan would never have left her injured and alone on a sidewalk. My steps never faltered. I walked away and didn't look back. After that day, Isabella never came looking for me again. We returned to our separate lives, two strangers who once shared a bed. I heard from a friend that Julian Croft proposed to her. She turned him down, saying she would never marry again. I didn't really care. Everyone makes their own choices. My little restaurant thrived. It grew bigger and more popular. 2 years later, I opened a second, much larger fine dining establishment. I was no longer just a chef. I was a restaurateur. A new chapter of my life had begun.